I mean, I'm watching it just like, all right, and I'm like, okay, and then he just keeps going somehow, and he's a special player, best quarterback in the league for a reason.
Okay, you love that? Well, he's the best quarterback in the league? I mean, he's obviously not. I mean, I debated whether or not we should put Dalton Kincaid on the bulletin board. Hubbs talked me out of it. He said he has to say it about his teammate. And I said, I don't think that's
fair. You would agree with that.
No, if someone, I wouldn't.
I mean, it's close enough. I don't even think so, but Josh is a good enough player where your teammates going to say.
I don't know. If I were in that spot, I wouldn't say like Kevin Wildes is the best studio host in the world. I'd be like top 2, him and Ernie Johnson.
For the record, Wildes,
like that's what I would say. You know what I mean? Like at some point, like there's somebody that's clearly above. But go ahead. What's the question here, Wildes? I don't think it was. Do I like that?
Oh, sorry.
It's a very different conversation piece that we're trying to have.
This is why I'm not the best. By the idea that this is the biggest game of Josh Allen's career.
I think by far. I think it's unequivocally top 2. The only argument you could make is the AFC title game in the 2020 season, but that was such a different spot. That was a Bills team that was ahead of schedule instead of behind. They were playing the defending champs. That Chiefs team had won, do the math here, 20 of 21 games going into that game that Mahomes had played, or 22 of 23, something insane. And the Chiefs were the favorites.
And it was in Kansas City.
And it was in Kansas City. Now, after that game, the GM Brandon Beane said, we are obsessed with the Chiefs. We are building our offseason around beating them. You then got your shot the next year and had as soul-crushing of a round 2 loss as possible. Then the next year fell apart before you got your shot. Now you're at home. It's a Chiefs team that is, of the Mahomes era, statistically the most vulnerable. And these windows don't stay open forever. So I think that this is far and away the biggest game of Allen's career. And I think that is a huge edge for Kansas City, because it's the 3rd biggest game the Chiefs have played in the last 365 days. And so the game against Burrow in the AFC title game was a huge spot, and obviously the Super Bowl. So, yes, I think it's the biggest game of his career.
I agree with Nick, but to me, if you don't reach a Super Bowl, every player that has not reached a Super Bowl, the biggest game of your career is your next playoff game. That's it. I mean, for Joe Burrow, who's reached the Super Bowl, this wouldn't be the biggest game of his career, even though he hasn't won one. So Josh Allen, the championship game against the Chiefs was huge, but he has to get to the Super Bowl. Period. So this is the biggest game of his career. And guess what? If they win this game, next week's game will be the biggest of his career. Until you win the Super Bowl, that's how it works in my mind. The next playoff game is the biggest of your career.
But you're also hinting that this pressure is going to squeeze Josh Allen, even though they've been in kind of these little must-wins for a while.
They've been in playoff mode for
I think it's very
almost
different.
2 months now.
I think that the fact that I oddly think their success in the regular season against the Chiefs psychologically can work against you. I think it's like, wait, we own this team in the regular season, and in the playoffs we've never beaten them. I think the fact that there is, aside from Von Miller and Leonard Floyd and a couple other guys on the team, nobody's played in bigger games than this one can hurt them. I think the fact that Sean McDermott and Andy Reid has played in 15 Super Bowls or conference championship games. Sean McDermott's coached in 1. And the other, and I think that's where being at home can be a weird spot, because you can feel if the Chiefs get out to 7-0, that is going to be a nervous energy in Orchard Park.
You think so?
That is not there on the road. I have felt
14,
it.
Maybe
10-0, 7-0 with the ball, something like that. So your buddy and my pretend internet friend, but your actual friend, Bill Simmons, gave a cross-sport analogy that I want to bounce off Brew. If the Bills lose this game, Dominique Wilkins' Hawks, which was, gosh darn it, man, They should be able to break through. And I know they never even made a conference championship
Right.
game,
He
but
never got past
they
the
all
second
there's
round.
also like he had the epic round 2 duel where he might have outplayed Bird, but they lost. They didn't lose to Bird every year. They lost to the Pistons, they lost to the Sixers, lost to other teams. But this
Man, he's a Hall of
this
Famer,
Hall of Famer, unicorn, maybe most fun player to watch in the league, who just couldn't break through for a whole era. And you've said previously that, at some point, Allen's going to beat Mahomes in the playoffs. At some point, maybe if they don't win this one, maybe not. Because you don't know how many opportunities you're going to get. They didn't get the opportunity last year.
Right.
Like, does that land with you at all?
I think that's a great comparison, no doubt. I mean, Dominique, we all look at him as one of the greatest players of that era.
Yep.
And he was a clear Hall of Famer. And you're right, that could be Josh Allen. What I've said about Allen is his window is the prime of his career. The window with this group is not. They need to win tomorrow and then see what they can do against Baltimore.
Can we stay here for another moment
Sure.
to let's just operate under the assumption the Chiefs win and then lose to Baltimore, right? And that Baltimore then goes. Or the Chiefs win and lose to Houston and Houston then goes. The point that I'm making is we in the media, right or wrong, has viewed this Chiefs Bills as the top dogs of the AFC. The Chiefs obviously have earned that
Right.
spot. Mm-hmm. The Bengals leapfrogged the Bills and beat them in the playoffs, and then had a bad year. Quarterback got hurt. If then another team beats the Chiefs that isn't the Bills after the Chiefs beat the Bills, you could go into next year's thinking, all right, in the AFC, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're going to be there to a degree, but Baltimore just got to the Super Bowl. Cincinnati has played them tougher in the playoffs than Buffalo has, or like all those things. The point is, in this conference, that whole this is going to be the rivalry, that can change quick.
Yeah.
Especially if the Chiefs beat them again.
I don't think that's the rivalry, like the only rivalry. And if Baltimore wins the Super Bowl or gets to the Super Bowl, I don't think it's as negative for Buffalo as if Houston. If Houston does, now you've got another team. Because next year we start the season, Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Buffalo, presumably. But now you got to throw Houston in there if they even get to the conference championship.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, so spinning it forward, Brew, what's at stake for the Bills if they come up short? I know you talked about the Chiefs winning, but the other side of the ball.
I think that Sean McDermott, if they lose this game, I think they have to seriously look at replacing him. I mean, they are S-Bob, period. And he said it himself when he put the Lombardi Trophy banner of it in their practice facility. All right, and he's a good coach. What he's done in Buffalo is great. And to be honest, this season, he's a defensive guy. What he's done with that defense in light of all the injuries is impressive. But my point is kind of what Nick's been saying. If you don't beat Kansas City this year, when their offense is worse than we've ever seen it with Mahomes and Reed, when are you going? And you got them at home in Buffalo where you're really good.
Sure.
When are you going to beat them? I think you would need a culture change. You would need a new coach to come in there. And you got some good ones available. Belichick, Mike Vrabel. I think they would need to make a coaching change because it would just be like, we're just spinning our wheels here. We're going to be good, but we're not going to get over that team, let alone the other ones.
So I think they are going to lose, and I do not think they're going to replace McDermott. Which is why I said last week the best thing for them would have been to lose to Pittsburgh, because I do think they need a seismic shift. I know Wilds, you and I got a little sideways yesterday. I don't know if it was on or off the air. I felt like we were arguing all day. It was really unfortunate about the idea of coaches being penalized for success and then one instance of failure rather than just sustained mediocrity. And that's just, I don't view it that way. I view it more as I judge coaches based on what are fair expectations for the talent of the roster and where are you achieving in line with that. So, I can be impressed by a 7-10 coaching job, in a year, and thought that a 11-6 job by Sirianni was a total failure. If you're McDermott, the question would become, if not now, when? What is the plan?